So now you have an idea that you think can sell. You have worked out roughly what kind of profit you can expect to get from it, and you even have a 3D CAD file ready to send off to those interested in helping you make your idea a reality. At this stage, it's always a good idea to create a prototype. There are numerous ways you can do this, from talking with a manufacturer, I'll talk more about that later, to using 3D printing or even creating your very own prototype from scratch if you have the DIY skills and the necessary materials. This will come in handy for the focus groups, which is the next stage, and also just so that you can get an idea of how this is all working and if you feel positive about your product. Prototyping can also bring to light problems that might not have been apparent from the CAD file alone. Once you have your prototype, it's a good idea to consider using focus groups or doing other market research at this stage. This means researching how other products in the market are performing and who your buyer persona is. At the same time, you might want to create an actual focus group for your product, which means hiring a venue, getting people together, and getting feedback from them regarding your product. This is a very good strategy as it will allow you to see how people react to your product in person. Again, it might be painful to learn things about your idea at this stage, but it's better to find out now than later. You can then take the feedback you get and use this to iterate on your product design. Likewise, you can recall positive responses and use this as evidence that your product has, quote, legs when you're trying to get a licensing deal or funding. And we'll talk about that in later videos. Now, at this point, you might find yourself starting to worry. You've got a great idea, a great design, and you're all ready to go. Should you really be sending that to manufacturers, showing it to focus groups? What's to stop someone from simply taking your idea and using it for themselves? Of course, this is a real problem, so you need to think about intellectual property law and what you can do to protect yourself. There are actually five different types of protection under intellectual property law. Now, these may vary depending on what country you live in, so just use what I'm going to say here as a guide and do your own research as to what applies where you live. Now, protections 1 and 2 are patents or patents, as some people pronounce it. And when it comes to hardware, the most relevant form of intellectual property protection is no doubt a patent. And it's patents that Apple and Samsung have infamously fought over so publicly about. Patents protect physical creations, they protect medicines, and they protect designs. More specifically, though, they protect the method of execution as opposed to the original idea. To demonstrate this, consider that the inventor of the chair could not patent chairs, nor could they patent something you sit on. They may, though, have had more luck protecting something you sit on with four legs and a back. As a maker, then, you can use a patent to protect the design or engineering innovations that made your product possible rather than the product itself. The two types of patents are design patents and utility patents, which protect designs and utilities respectively. In other words, if you have a smartphone, the design patent would protect the look of the phone, while the utility patent would protect the inclusion of whatever newfangled chip it had in it. Unfortunately for designers, getting a patent is a complex, expensive, and slow process, however, and your ideas will only be protected in certain regions. They also expire. In the UK, it's 20 years for utility patents and 14 for design patents, and they can't be renewed indefinitely. To get more information on patents, check out the Patent Office website for the country where you live. Number 3 is copyright, and copyright law is less likely to apply to makers, but it still can play a role. Copyright protects stories, writing, music, and even code to some extent. In other words, a copyright protects creative pursuits and comes into effect the moment you complete something. So, if you write a blurb for your new product, that blurb will be protected under copyright law and you can threaten legal action if someone publishes it against your will. What this also means is that you can't just take an image from Google Images and use it in your packet design or on your website. The main challenge with copyright is proving that the idea was yours originally. Again, you can find much more information at the Intellectual Property Office for your country. 4 is a trademark, and a trademark is a name or an image that you trade under which can be used to identify your business or your products. Now, that might mean your company name, your products, or even a branch of your business. Microsoft is a trademark, for instance, but Windows, Xbox, and Surface are also all trademarks owned by Microsoft. Trademarks are relatively easy to acquire and will set you back a few $100s, which protects you for 10 years. It's always worth doing a trademark search before you create a new product in case someone should already own the rights. And finally, number 5 is an NDA. Now, an NDA is a non disclosure agreement, sometimes called a confidentiality agreement. This is a contract used to prevent others from talking about your ideas, which in turn means you can speak freely with business partners and employees about your projects. Typically, an NDA will be in the form contract and will include a list of things that you can and can't mention outside of the meeting. These days, though, many serious companies and startups won't use NDAs, and you can risk looking unprofessional if you push this too strongly. As a rule, people you will consult with have their own ideas and plans and aren't bent on stealing yours. What's more, ideas are in no short supply. It's the ability to see them through that matters. As with most things, the best form of protection is simply to be the first and to be the best. No one will remember the imitators. At some point, you just need to start getting your idea out there and push ahead. So take the plunge. Remember how, at the end of the last video, I said that's everything you need to get your product made and to take it from an idea to a reality? Well, that's not quite everything. Because now you have a product that's ready to go, but actually no inventory to start selling. Oh dear. This is where the next stage comes in, finding funding for your idea, and it's really a rather important stage. The good news? Once again, the internet has come to our rescue and made all this as easy as it can possibly be. And in this case in particular, we're going to be using crowdfunding to make our money. Crowdfunding simply means that we're asking the community to fund our products, and the most famous example of this is Kickstarter. The best part is that you don't have to give away any percentage of your business or your profits. Backers on crowdsourcing sites get involved because they want to place pre-orders and because they want to see your ideas come to fruition. This is famously how projects like the Oculus Rift came into being. Finding an investor means giving away a share of your business. Getting a loan means taking a serious risk. But crowdfunding? There is zero risk and no downside. And this is why more and more makers are now finally able to see their ideas come to fruition when previously it would never have been possible. There are other crowdsourcing options out there, though, and other funding options too. The most obvious place most people will start is Kickstarter, which is the best known crowdfunding site on the web and possibly largely responsible for the strategy's current popularity. Now, while Kickstarter might be the most famous and provide you with access to the biggest number of potential backers, this can also be a bad thing in that it means you'll be facing more competition and you'll need to follow stricter guidelines. However, Indiegogo, which you'll find here at indiegogo.com, is a slightly more lightweight alternative where it can be easier for beginners to get noticed. Then there's some other options. The first one is crowdfunder.co.uk. And while Kickstarter rules the roost in the US, until recently it was less accessible for those based in the UK and Europe. And this site here, crowdfunder.co.uk, is aimed to take advantage of this by focusing on the UK market and has now found a niche as a great place for charities to raise money and for British entrepreneurs to find backing. Then there's Small Knot, and Small Knot is a relatively young crowdfunding organization that looks at businesses rather than projects and encourages users to invest in small local organizations. And they're based in Brooklyn, New York, and you can read more about them on their Facebook page. And then there's Rocket Hub. Now, Rocket Hub functions very similarly to Kickstarter, but has become particularly popular among musicians and philanthropists. And you can read more about it here at rockethub.com. Note that crowdfunding sites do have their drawbacks and limitations. For instance, crowdfunding only works if you can raise the money you've set yourself as a target. At least that's the case with Kickstarter. Indiegogo does not have this rule. These platforms are also becoming increasingly saturated, which means you're going to need to have a very good and unique idea and then do a lot of promotion on top of this to make it a reality. There are likewise many more funding options for raising capital. One option is simply to find investors, and there are many websites that can help you do this. For example, AngelList, which you can read about here at angel.co, is a website that works similarly in some ways to a crowdfunding site, except that the investors do get some money and some share of your business. However, they can back you with small amounts of cash, which means that you're not just approaching massively wealthy individuals and companies. Creating a profile on AngelList is a great way to learn about investors and to let them start getting to know you, even if you don't end up looking for money on the site. Other sites like Crowdcube, which you can find here at crowdcube.com, and Angel's Den, which is angelsden.com, can also do similar things. Note that it's also possible to get funding at other stages of your manufacturing. For example, you can get funding from business angels and accelerators at the pre-seed stage of your business, the point where you're still prototyping. Look at companies like tandemcap.com and hax.co for more information. Seed capital is the money you get to turn your idea into a reality at the industrialization phase. At this point, you can get money from crowdfunding or from investors, after which you enter the growth phase. Growth phase funding is what happens in the first few years of your business and is referred to as Series A, Series B, and Series C funding. Series A tends to raise anything from $1 to $10 million and is riskier for investors as you don't have much data backing your potential for success. Then you have Series B, which is mainly about scaling, and you can bring in much more money at this stage. Finally, Series C is for the fully mature business, at which point an acquisition might even be on the cards, which is ideal if you're looking for an exit strategy. After this comes the IPO, or your initial public offering. At this point, you can consider your business a roaring success, and you don't need me helping you anymore. Otherwise, you can find other ways to fund smaller projects. One option is bootstrapping, which means earning capital from a side business and funneling this into your own hardware manufacturing. Alternative, you can get a bank loan. Even PayPal offer business loans now, or you can even use a credit card loan. Just make absolutely sure that you've tested the market for your product and you know you're going to make money back before you take out loans. Then there's always the bank of mum and dad or friends and family. If you have a good idea, they might want to be part of it. This video series is going to tackle everything you need to know about coming up with an idea, taking it all the way to market, and then manufacturing and selling it. But before we get into the technical and ambitious stuff, Let's start out by looking at the easy stuff. If you want to create a physical product to sell from an existing website, just to gain some additional profits and perhaps strengthen your brand, it always looks very professional when you have your own physical product, then there are ways that you can do this right now without having to learn a ton of new skills or invest any cash. Let's take a look at some ways you can dip one toe tentatively into the world of physical products. One of the easiest ways to start selling products is to sell physical books. If you're already selling a digital product, such as an ebook, then it's only a small transition to start selling a hard copy of that book. And actually, this is incredibly easy to do. If you already have the file, then all you need to do is take that file and upload it to either Lulu, which is lulu.com, or CreateSpace, which is createspace.com, and this is Amazon's publishing services. And this is called print on demand, otherwise known as POD. And it essentially means that you're printing out your physical books every time someone orders one. Normally, if you were going to self publish a book, then you would have to order thousands of copies of the book and keep them in a warehouse. This would involve a large upfront investment, and you'd then have to sell all of those copies at a profit to make any money. And this would mean going to retailers, and generally it's a lot of work that's led people to crashing and burning over the years. Alternatively, you could try and find a publisher, which would mean going via an agent. And this would usually lead to years of rejections before you got a deal. Even Harry Potter was rejected by several publishers before it found one. With POD, though, you simply upload the files to a machine that's capable of printing out the books. When someone orders your book, or you do, the printer simply makes a new copy ready to sell. There's no upfront investment and no risk of losing a profit. And the only overheads are the printing costs, which are very small, and whatever you paid for designing the cover, etc. There are plenty of sites on the web that allow you to create items with your brand printing on them. These include sites like Vistaprint, which you can find here at vistaprint.com, and there's also other versions of it like vistaprint.co.uk if you're in the UK, and like Spreadshirt, which you'll find here at spreadshirt.com. And using these sites, you can start selling printed t-shirts or printed mugs, caps, mouse mats, and more. All of them will look highly professional without any work on your part. Like POD, these print each time items are ordered, which means you'll never end up with a ton of stock on your hands. You can't create anything particularly inventive, but if you just want to get a physical product on your website, it's another easy way to do it. What's more is that this route is ideal for strengthening your brand. By giving or selling items with your logo printed on them, you increase the sense of loyalty your customers have as they feel proud to brandish your brand. What's more, every time someone uses your custom mug or cap in public, more people will see your logo. And some people actually manage to make quite a lot of money by selling t-shirts with funny slogans on them, etc. And guess what? There is one more way that you can quickly start selling. It's pretty retro, but it works. That method? Well, simply start making things by hand and selling them online. If you watch The Big Bang Theory, then you might remember the Penny Blossom episode where Penny creates lots of small paper flowers and sells them online. She ends up creating a human assembly line and minimizing her overheads, and the result is that she's able to generate a good profit for a day's work. You can do the exact same thing with a website to sell your products and something you can relatively easily mass produce. You have all the basics you need for an easy online business. This is made even easier by the fact that you can also promote your products on sites like Etsy, which is etsy.com, or of course on eBay, which is ebay.com. There's no reason your items have to be mass produced at all. If you're a creative type and you have a particular skill or craft that you can sell, then you can just as easily make money selling portraits on eBay, caricatures, homemade jewelry, or even artwork. My sister left art college with no job lined up and became a telesalesperson. That wasn't exactly what she wanted, but it doesn't matter to her because her real passion comes from making stunning artwork and selling it on eBay. What's more is that it makes her a very nice little profit on the side. Finally, why not have someone else design and manufacture the products, even handle the fulfillment, and you just put your logo on it? As it happens, that's actually a thing, and it's called drop shipping. And this is a white label service, meaning no one will ever know the other company is involved. The only difficulty is finding companies that offer this. Try Worldwide Brands, which is worldwidebrands.com, or Alibaba, which is alibaba.com, to find companies that do.